Hello. So we're live. Hopefully people can see this. I would love to know if you are here live or not. So if you could comment under the video, let me know because we've had some issues over the last, several weeks and things. So um, let's make sure that you are seeing this. Okay. All right. So today we're talking about anxiety and how if you have felt like you're anxious and stressed out and there's really no explanation for it, and you just get told that you just need to stress less, you're just getting older, it's just hormones, all of those types of things, then this is for you because there are so many nutrients that I see on a regular basis when I do micronutrient cellular level testing that show up for people when they are feeling anxious and all the symptoms that kind of come with that, even gut related things. And it's crazy how, if you replete the deficiencies, how those symptoms subside pretty quickly, actually. So we're going to get into that. So before we get going, let's reintroduce myself a little bit. If you're new here or you haven't been here for a while, my name is Tiffany. I'm a board certified and licensed nutritionist. I came to this space of helping people with their hormone balance, their blood sugar, their gut health, their stress management, because I was that patient. I was how you probably feel at times, and I was at the lowest of lows, so struggling. All my labs came back with normal, and I got zero help until I dug into my nutrition from a whole different level. Root cause nutrition. Like, what is the reason behind my symptoms? Don't just give me another medication to cover it up. Let's figure out why these things were happening. So I was pretty relentless about figuring that stuff out, and that's how I work for you when I'm working with people in my programs in order to help support so they can get over their symptoms as best as possible, even with just nutrition. Okay, so that was my story. It goes into a situation where I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and sort of had to start all over dealing with symptoms and kind of the after effects of that process as well. And I had to crawl myself out of the hole, or pull myself out of that hole a few times. And I know if I can do it, then you can do it too. So today, let's talk about that anxiety piece and common nutrient deficiencies that absolutely are at the core of how this kind of the symptoms just keep on rolling and how it keeps on keeping on. It keeps you feeling sick and stuck. So you might, kind of relate to some of these symptoms that are showing up, but I want to go through this with you kind of step by step. So when we think about anxiety, right, we have to understand that it is highly influenced by biochemistry and your nutrient status. It's not just because I think a lot of times people refer to it as like a chemical imbalance, and it is because our biochemistry, our brain chemicals get affected, and then it's hard to figure it out, especially if we get put on any kind of medications that affect our serotonin, norepinephrine, and that kind of thing. Sometimes it's hard to find out the answers to help us feel better. So what happens essentially is that our nutrition status and our biochemistry help us to regulate our stress hormones so that our nervous system becomes stable and balanced out. We make brain chemicals called neurotransmitters that help to support our GABA production, which calms us down, and then our serotonin, which helps us with our mood and among other things. And it also helps with maintaining a stable blood sugar, which if that is impaired, we end up with mood issues as well. Anybody who has ever felt hangry knows what I'm talking about. That is low blood sugar driving that sort of I'm so hungry and also I'm angry type of scenario. So it's kind of, it kind of double dips on those different symptoms. So we need to keep the nervous system calm and stable, but we are more often in this hyperactive or hyper reactive state, and that, my friends, is anxiety. All right, so we don't need more willpower just to get over it, but we might need more of the right nutrients. And so that would look a little bit differently for everybody. All right, so if anybody has felt and dealt with anxiety, you know, if you could comment below, that'd be great. And if you're watching the replay, also let me know this as well too. I just want to see that this stuff gets out there. It's been hard to get these trainings out there to get people the support that they need, trying to help support people as much as possible. This is all free. So, you know, get in there and take advantage of the information that we're putting out here so that you can kind of start helping yourself before you maybe even have someone in your corner working with you. Okay, so when we look at our overactive stress response, it's kind of a disassociation or dysregulation between our brain and our cortisol production, right? So too much cortisol or cortisol that is elevated at the wrong times creates this stress, right? This anxiety in our symptoms. So nutrient deficiencies make that worse. And I see kind of a cluster of nutrient deficiencies show up oftentimes in people who self-report that they're anxious. Some of them have been diagnosed with anxiety and put on medications, and I still see it show up in their nutrient deficiencies. So when your body isn't absorbing or making the right nutrients, it's really hard to utilize a calming neurotransmitter called GABA. Now, GABA is one of the neurotransmitters that calms the one side of your nervous system down, helps you get into that rest and digest state. And if you don't have enough of that, you're going to be feeling high, you know, like tired and wired and up here, anxious and kind of agitated and that kind of thing, which is obviously not the place we want to go. When you also add on to this, which so many people don't even realize that this is happening until labs show up, and that usually takes quite a while. Low blood sugar, if you're having reactive hypoglycemia, or if you are having low blood sugar, you are going to have anxiety. You're going to have a racing heart potentially. You're going to be shaky. You may feel panicky. And it just exacerbates those other symptoms. So you need to really understand that that has to all be in check. And that's how, kind of just in a nutshell, how the nervous system works and how it's supported. There's so much, believe me, there's so much more information I could share about that, but I just wanted to give you high level information on that before we get into the key nutrients. Now, these are the 5 key nutrients that I see, especially like I said on the micronutrient panel that I work on that I've been doing for 12 years, and see really good results when people get this in check and they start replenishing their body. But we're going to talk about the first one is vitamin B5. So that's called pantothenic acid. It is kind of your anti-stress vitamin. And I bet you there's not one test that I've done in the last 12 years where someone has reported to me that they have anxiety and that this nutrient has not been deficient. Now, it's not an nutrient that's usually tested on a standard lab panel. This has to be in a more functional lab panel. And B5 is essential for making cortisol and for proper adrenal function. Adrenal glands, which are your stress management glands, they are they're fueled by the B vitamins and vitamin C as well. And if you're not eating enough proteins or enough variety of foods that have a lot of B vitamins in it, you are going to not be supporting those adrenals, and therefore it can just set you up on sort of the stress, like having an effect of being more stressed out and anxious than being calm in that rest and digest state. So it supports the body's ability to handle stress, but it really kind of keeps you from overreacting if you have enough B5. It is required to create a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine that helps you with calm and focus. Okay, so it's kind of a precursor. It's a part of making that other neurotransmitter. So if you are deficient in B5, you're going to be struggling with feeling tired and wired, where at bedtime you're actually wide awake, probably the most awake you've been in your day, and when you should be sleeping, you're actually ready to get all kinds of projects done or just cannot shut down for the night. You might have poor stress tolerance, meaning anytime you have something that comes up that's stressful, or if you have just ongoing chronic stress, which I think many people or most people seem to have, you're not very resilient, right? You're not tolerating it very well. This is something that I talk about in my Total Health Reset program. It's my 5-month program. We're working on building that resilience so your body doesn't completely fall apart when you're maybe not doing everything that you should be doing with your diet and your exercise and your lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. So you have poor resilience because you have too little B5. Another thing that happens with low B5 is irritability. It's not just hormones, okay? Women get blamed for having irritability issues and mood issues just because of the hormones. It is also nutrient dependent. Fatigue will get worse when you're under stress. Some people get kind of wired when they're stressed out. Other people get flatline tired when they're stressed out. And if you have a lot of muscle tension, you could be low in B5. If you're watching this or watching a replay, make sure you comment B5 if that sounds like you. If any of those things sound like you, comment B5. All right, so why people are deficient in this nutrient? It's because there's chronic stress. You are basically using more B5 than your body can keep up with. It's not taking it in through the nutrients. You're not absorbing it in your gut very well. That can impair the absorption of all these nutrients. And then if you're eating a more processed diet and smaller amounts of whole foods, you're just not getting enough B5 in it just because of that. Okay, so your common good quality food sources of B5 are going to be eggs, avocado, mushrooms, sunflower seeds, grass-fed meats. I don't know. I would say that meat, animal proteins are going to be a really good source of B vitamins in general, as far as like the most easy bioavailable absorbable nutrients. But it's important to eat a variety of foods, right? You don't want to just eat meats or animal proteins, right? You want to get a variety of things to get all these nutrients in. So if you're highly stressed and you're anxious, B5 support may help your nervous system and help you feel less reactive. But start with foods, everybody. I was just doing another training earlier today. I don't want you just to go and buy the supplements that I'm talking about of the different nutrients I'm talking about today, just randomly, willy-nilly. You have to know what you're taking. You have to know therapeutic levels. You have to know, like ideally you would know what your levels are, but you don't just want to start randomly taking these. Start with food first, okay? I always say that. Start with food first. All right, your next most calming nutrient is going to be magnesium. It's sort of your body's calming mineral. So magnesium is required for that GABA. Remember we talked about GABA with the B5? Again, the same thing. This is important because it helps with the production of GABA. So it also helps you relax and calm and focus and that type of thing. But also it helps with the relaxation of your muscles and your nerves, helps you regulate your stress response. It also helps with that blood sugar and that glucose and insulin sensitivity, that whole system, so that you can, tamp down the symptoms related to low blood sugar. And if you have kind of if you're feeling like really anxious or kind of twitchy, I don't know how to really describe it, kind of overreactive or hyperreactive to something, whether it be people or sounds, loud noises, that kind of thing, chances are you're really low in magnesium, probably some of the other B vitamins as well. But magnesium is used in over 300 processes in the body, and because of our chronic stress in our society, we just have probably low levels of magnesium on a regular basis. So deficiencies of that will look like restlessness. You could have restless leg syndrome. You can have trouble sleeping, heart palpitations, sensitivity to the noise and the overwhelm. So I just got done kind of describing that. So this happens because we have a lot of soil depletion, right? Our soil that our foods are grown in are deficient in nutrients. Therefore, the foods that are grown in that soil are somewhat deficient too. So our nutrient status of our foods looks very different than it did, 50, 100 years ago. You could eat the same diet as your grandmother and not get the same level of nutrients in it. So soil depletion causes lower magnesium foods. High stress increases the demands of magnesium. And then caffeine, alcohol, and sugar deplete magnesium even more. So it's sort of like a trifecta of causing issues with magnesium. So the best magnesium for anxiety and sleep support are going to be magnesium glycinate and or magnesium threonate. And sometimes people will combine the two depending on the situation. Again, don't go out there and just buy some random stuff. Ask me for a specific recommendation, or if you're in the program or whatever, or if you want to do lab testing to really check it out, that would be their best bet to get the best therapeutic levels. But food sources, again, start with foods. Even if you supplement, eat the foods too. You need pumpkin seeds, spinach, almonds, dark chocolate. If you like 85% plus dark chocolate, that is. So if you have anxiety and you have poor sleep, probably magnesium deficiency is at, it's probably a strong likelihood. So is kind of at the core of that. So if magnesium deficiency, those symptoms and stuff I just described to you sound like you, I want you to comment magnesium below. Okay, I just want to see who's feeling what here. All right, the next. This is something I see very deficient, like significantly deficient on a regular basis. This is vitamin B6. This one is the brain chemical builder. Okay, it's a raw material for making GABA, for making serotonin. Serotonin will then convert into melatonin to help you sleep. It's a raw material for making dopamine that will improve your motivation and mental clarity. So without adequate B6 as a raw material, the brain struggles to regulate mood, and for sure, it doesn't help to manage stress at all with this. So that is something that is super important. Deficiencies of B6 look like kind of a lot of the other things: anxiety, irritability, mood swings. PMS-related anxiety can be even worse when you have low B6. Brain fog is a big factor, trouble winding down at night. And people are deficient in B6, again, because of chronic stress levels. If you're taking birth control, that can lower B6 in general. And then poor gut health can reduce the absorption and so that of foods, so that you're not making the B6 properly. Therefore, you're not going to be making some of the other brain chemicals that help to keep us calm. So very good, common, everyday food sources. Again, animal proteins like poultry, chicken, turkey, etc. Salmon or other fatty fish, chickpeas, bananas, and like a variety of other plants as well. But those are kind of the highlights for the B6. If your anxiety worsens around your cycle, it's probably a B6 issue, more than likely. There's probably other things too, but B6 could be very much at the core of that when you have exacerbated anxiety during PMS. Again, it's not just about a hormone imbalance. So if B6 deficiency, those symptoms, those scenarios sound like you, I want you to comment B6 below. All right, the next one, we got two more here. So let's talk about zinc. This is your brain and mood mineral, okay? Zinc is really, really important for playing a role in signaling of GABA. There's that GABA again, a calming brain chemical. It helps with stress resilience. It also helps with your immune system, which if your immune system is stressed, then your body is stressed, you're stressed. And it helps with brain inflammation. If you feel like you have brain fog and feel like, thought processes and cognitive function is starting to feel different, it's not just because you're getting older. It's not just because you're hormonal. I mean, again, those things can play a part in it, but oftentimes it's because your brain might be inflamed, as awful as that sounds. And zinc is strongly associated with that. So Zinc is definitely associated with anxiety and depression in so much of the research. So make sure you're getting enough zinc. But again, the right form, don't just go randomly buy it and take it at high doses because you'll cause other problems. But zinc is really important for the brain health, just that alone. So if you have a deficiency in zinc, you can be affecting your anxiety and your low mood. Okay, you can have those situations be sort of at the forefront. You can have poor focus. You can have a weakened immune system, and your hair can start shedding. You can have brittle nails. Your immune system, you can tell, like I said, it's weakened, but if you're popping up with colds on a regular basis, or on, like some kind of thing that's happening all the time, or they never quite go away, you could definitely be having a zinc issue. So the reason why people are commonly deficient is because they're not taking in much for animal protein. We have all or nothing going on here. We have people either doing like vegan or vegetarian diets, or we have people doing carnivore diets. There's nothing in between, and people, when you eliminate full amounts of food categories or sources of foods, you are going to cause some depletion. So if you have a low animal protein intake, that can be a reason why you're deficient in zinc. High stress, again, anytime you have this chronic and high stress, you are depleting your nutrients like crazy. If your gut is not functioning very well, if you have an inflamed gut, if you struggle with constipation, diarrhea, bloating, feeling like you're really full after you eat, there's a good chance that you have some form of leaky gut, inflammation in your gut. And zinc, and a specific form of zinc, is helpful for supporting that gut lining and keeping it nice and healthy. And if you're doing heavy exercise with not really good nutrition or adequate nutrition and relying only on protein shakes and protein bars and things like that, you are probably deficient in the zinc, and that's the source of that deficiency. So great food sources of this are going to be things like oysters. Not my thing. I'm never going to use that as a source. I'd rather supplement for myself rather than eating oysters, but I will do grass-fed beef. I will do pumpkin seeds. I will do eggs. Those are really good sources of zinc. So if you're feeling anxious and you run down super easily, you don't recover from your exercises very well, low zinc may be contributing to this. The other thing that nobody really talks about with zinc is that it has a connection to how well you are processing and breaking down fructose, which is one of the sugars from fruits, and that helps with liver, or that is done in the liver. So if you're deficient in zinc, you're probably malabsorbing fructose, which can set you up for a whole other, cluster of symptoms. All right, so if those things resonate with you, comment zinc below, please. Okay, and then the next thing is iron. This is your oxygen carrier, and with hemoglobin, right? It's your oxygen delivery system. It is your energy mineral, okay? So iron is required to transport oxygen to the brain and the rest of the tissues. It helps to make dopamine and serotonin, which helps with your mood and your drive, motivation, all that good stuff. And it supports the production of energy in your cells. You've heard of ATP probably in high school biology. I know you did because I taught it a million times. That ATP is created in the mitochondria, and iron helps with this process. So low iron can mimic or worsen anxiety. So if you are deficient in iron, you're going to have anxiety, especially as it's associated with fatigue. A lot of times people understand the connection between low iron and fatigue, but it can be wrapped in there with anxiety. You can have shortness of breath. You can walk up a flight of stairs and feel like you're winded, even though you are, relatively in shape. So that could be an iron problem. Heart palpitations, cold hands and feet, hair thinning, even the syndrome where, I can't remember what it's called, when runners, it's like God, what is it called? It's like when you're stomping, when you're running, and you can have iron deficiency just from that impact from running. It happens with runners, long distance runners a lot. And that could be a reason for it. So if you're feeling draggy and energy and you're a runner, there is probably a connection to that. So why people are deficient, especially women, is because of monthly cycles, and so many women struggle with heavy periods, lots of clotting and that kind of stuff. That obviously will cause an iron deficiency or contribute to not really repleting your iron stores. It can be because of a low dietary iron intake. Not many people, or people a lot of times being told to avoid meats, or especially red meats. Poor absorption due to gut issues. There's that gut again. The gut there, that has a whole, I mean, a lot of this stuff does, but the gut has a whole module just to itself in my Total Health Reset program, because the gut is key critical for people to have healthy, so that they can feel so much better with, you know, their symptoms. If they're not absorbing the nutrients from their foods, they're just not going to feel very good at all. So if you have endurance exercises, like if you're doing a lot of endurance exercises, then that is a reason why you may be struggling for energy as related to having an issue with iron. Okay, so that is actually a big factor in there. So good food sources are going to be grass-fed beef, chicken liver or organ meats, that kind of thing. I love to recommend people eat as a kind of adjunct to what they're eating. There's a seasoning called Eat Pluck, like pluck the chicken, eatpluck.com, and it's organ meat seasoning. Tastes kind of like Lowry seasoning salt, but it's kind of like a superfood type of thing. It will help not totally bring your iron stores back up to normal, but you can just add it to the foods that you're currently eating, just as a way to get a good level in it if you're not eating a lot of those types of foods. Lentils, as long as you have some vitamin C to go along for best absorption, and then spinach. And if you are supplementing with iron, be careful with the form that you're taking in, because it can make you feel worse sometimes. But also making sure that when you take the iron, you're consuming some kind of vitamin C with it, whether it be citrus and things like that. That will help with that absorption as well. So if you have anxiety and fatigue with heavy periods and heavy periods, your iron status should be checked. And the number we really care about is your ferritin, which is your iron storage. Okay, so basically these nutrients work together in kind of a network. Okay, you don't fix anxiety just by treating symptoms alone. You have to support all the body's biochemistry at kind of that root cause level. So again, making sure you have good levels of this by layering in those foods, maybe supplementation if you are getting the right stuff. So reach out if you're not sure what to do there. And then working on some lifestyle types of things, different strategies, which look different for everybody. So it might be reading, journaling, meditating, praying, all of the above, yoga, Pilates, some restorative type exercises, downtime, taking rest throughout the day to help manage that stress. That alone will help you absorb your nutrients better. That can help contribute to reducing those symptoms of anxiety. And this applies whether you're on anti-anxiety medications or not, okay? So these are things you can do to just set up those foundational, root cause foundational nutrient habits in order to help your body feel and function like you deserve. And even if you don't think that you can change anything because you felt like this for so long, you can change things. I see it all the time. If you feel like the things I described with regard to iron fit you, comment iron below, please, so we can figure out who is struggling with what. And if you have any other questions about this, or if you want to learn more about how you can work with me to really get to the bottom of things so that you can support, all the foundational things in order to help support your symptoms and help you feel better like you deserve to feel, I want you to comment call below. We will send you the link to the clarity call. You can jump on that with one of my team members. They will go through all of your symptoms, ask you all kinds of questions. You get to ask a lot of questions, get those things answered, and see if working with us is like the thing for you to do, if it's a good fit, because chances are it is, and we cover all the bases. We have it all covered. We prescribe in all 50 states. So this could be a thing that if you need a prescription for hormones or thyroid or whatever, that you're not getting from, you know, your regular doctor, because they're just not looking at things the same way. This might be, that alone might be the reason you would jump on that call. But I'd love to help you out if this sounds like you. And I hope this has been helpful, and I'll be back next week to talk about gut and metabolism. All right, so take care and hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.